The title of the book, To Find the Way of Love, the Purpose of Our Existence. And the author, Oliver E. Deehan. And Oliver joins us now on AuthorTalk. Hello, Oliver.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Great to have you with us. This is going to be a lively discussion, very relevant today. And relationships is key. You say this, human relationships are the most important elements in our lives, but our choices in shaping them don't seem to bring us happiness or satisfaction. We need to find the way of love, and that way of love has a tremendous impact, as you point out, even in our government's policies and behavior. It's all kind of interactive, isn't it?
Yes, because the government, consists of relationships, especially our government, between, three powers: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. And the Constitution set them up as equals. But unfortunately, especially with the legislative, inequality has crept in through the imposition of hierarchy. Both the Senate and the legislative, the House, were set up as bodies of equals. But they're not really equals anymore, because in order to do business, both parties agreed they had to set up a committee structure where most of the work is really done, and, a hierarchy based on seniority, some individuals having more power than others. And that's kind of a distortion of what the founders intended.
Before we move on, let's find out a little bit about you, Oliver, and then why you decided to write your book.
I've been thinking about relationships for, actually for 20 years. I was a Navy pilot, and I was first impressed with the relationships among pilots in Navy squadrons. Each of us had a certain rank, and when I joined my first fleet squadron, I was an ensign. I was at the bottom of the rank. But there was no inequality among pilots, because we all did the same thing. Once we were in the air, everybody was equal. And that impressed me. So even though the Navy is a very hierarchical organization, I realized that hierarchy does not have to rest on inequality. Later on, I had a career for 40 years in the hospital field, where I was both administrator of hospitals and CEO at Stanford Hospital, for 6 years. I was not a doctor, and yet I had to accomplish results, and I was accountable to a board of directors, and I had to accomplish those results through other people performing tasks that I couldn't perform. So relationships became very important, and my success, I think, was attributed to fostering cooperation instead of competition. In the 7 years I was at Stanford, I don't ever recall giving an order, but there was a lot of negotiations and presenting objectives to the rest of the organization, which then they responded to meet. So those two experiences were very instrumental, in my thinking about relationships and equality in relationships. Then I had another life experience, very significant. I was an alcoholic for 10 years, active alcoholic, and then I joined AA, and it helped me turn my life around. But I saw transformations of people's lives occur just because they went to AA meetings, shared the intimate experiences of their life, and in those meetings there was total freedom to express whatever you wanted to, and equality of all members. There is no hierarchy in AA, and so that too influenced my writing of the book. In fact, I'll refer to it several times as being influential on my lifestyle.
Key to freedom, key to liberty in a country like ours. You really advocate the importance, the bottom line importance of love.
Yes. Love is something that, was not created by man. I think it exists independently, of mankind. But it does involve choices on our part. We have to choose if we want to be in a loving relationship. And that choice has to, very often is between self-interest and concern for the other. Too often, when faced with a decision, we choose self-interest. As I've said in the book, except for family emergencies, we choose self-interest over altruism, which is concern for the other. But love involves always concern for the other. In a successful love relationship, there's a balance of power between the two parties and equal concern of each for the other's well-being. And that's love.
And a successful relationship that brings prosperity to a business, the same principles.
Yes. Again, in the book, I mentioned that I was fortunate to work for Bill Hewlett of Hewlett-Packard, one of the most impressive, human beings I ever met. And neither he nor Packard, when they formed the company, were really interested in making money. They were interested in providing something useful to the business community and also recognizing the contributions of employees who, with them, actually built the company into one of the most successful companies in the United States. They, from the very beginning, they gave even monetary recognition to the contribution of employees. In several instances, when an engineer had a good idea, which legally was owned by the company, they chose to finance the development of a corporation to promote that idea until it was marketable, and then they bought the company back, making engineers quite wealthy. That's the kind of economic statesmanship and stewardship that I admire, and it expresses the equality that all of us share just by being human beings.
And of course, we can take it right into government as well. As you initially started to point out, it's so important, this balance of power and this equality. And in order to see someone that way, there has to be a special feeling about that other person. You have to recognize how we're all in this together.
Yes. The legislative and the executive, although they battle in our form of government all the time, they recognize the right of the other party, to exist and to be part of the, government of the country. That's equality.
So equality doesn't mean identical.
Oh, no. In fact, another phrase I use in the book is that there can be differences between equals, but hierarchy, which is the antithesis of equality, can only exist between unequals. And we have differences of all kinds, differences of circumstance, of talent, of education, history, belief, you name it. But that doesn't mean we can't cooperate and work together, especially in government.
So how do these principles, how are they relevant today? Well, how do you see things, Oliver?
I'm concerned that both parties, but particularly the Republican Party, does not recognize the equality of the other party. And that's why the loyal opposition, the concept of the loyal opposition, has decayed. After World War II, when the United States became the richest, strongest economy and the most powerful country in the world, it had enormous wealth and became very attractive to individuals, corporations, and even other nations, to petition for economic benefit. The introduction of, money into the political process is what caused that decay. decay, and it still continues today. In fact, in the current presidential election, because of the Supreme Court decision, which I deplore, granting personhood to corporations and allowing them to contribute unlimited amounts of money anonymously, is very detrimental, to our democracy and the whole political process. It amounts to buying elections and buying public servants. They deny it, but it's true.
So relationships, as you point out, define life. Hierarchy hurts humanity. Only freedom and equality are essential together. There's where freedom and liberty, they flourish with this kind of equal relationship, and of course that's based on love.
Yes. And, I believe that at the moment of creation, the fundamental particles which comprise, everything in the universe, including our bodies, had no relationships, but then divine power infused love into the universe, which caused the particles to form relationships. But no particle was stronger than any other. No particle controlled any other. And that's what I mean by freedom and equality in the relationships. And that's fundamental, to our very existence. And that's why I feel so strongly that it needs to be reflected in government, and has been or was for many, many years in our government through the concept of the loyal opposition. Recognition of equality and not trying to dominate the other party.
So
I think the Republican Party today is trying to actually destroy the democracy and the Democratic Party. And that's deplorable.
So everything comes down to a personal decision, a personal view of life, how we see that other person. Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, it's always a choice between self-interest and altruism. Is it my way or our way? And I think our way is the best.
So we need to choose and achieve a better balance, and that will really solve a lot of problems.
Yes. One of the reviewers, I think was, I forget the name of the review agency, whatever, they described the book, as being saying civilization is ailing, and the disease is hierarchy, which is founded on inequality, and the cure is love, manifested through freedom and equality in personal relationships. And I think that very well sums it up.
It does. It sounds like it does just perfectly. Well, the title of the book, To Find the Way of Love, The Purpose of Our Existence, and we've been listening to the author, Oliver E. Deehan. Oliver, tell us how to get your book.
We have a website, which is www.tofindthewayoflove, all one word, .com. And if you go there, it'll direct you, to sources from which you can buy the book.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for being with us on AuthorTalk.
Thank you, Steve.